Alright, YouTube, so today we are working on a 2001 Chevy S10, and it's got the 4.3 V6 with a blown intake gasket down there, and so it's leaking coolant out of the front of the intake there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and go through the steps of how to go ahead and do the upper intake gaskets and all that on this, or actually it's not the upper intake, just the intake gaskets on this 4.2 or 4.3 V6, and it's also got some scale in the radiator, so we'll see what we can do about that. So let's get started. First thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and remove the intake pipe and where it goes into the throttle body here, and then get going with that. Alright, so here we are. The air cleaner is off. I've taken the distributor off. It is 2 T20 Torx screws down there, and just pop the coil wire off that goes right there. And then what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and detensioned the belt and took it off, and it's just a 3/8, see that square hole down there? Just a 3/8 hole for, there we go, 3/8 inch drive hole, or square. And then you just put your breaker bar in there, pull on it, release the tension, just take it off the alternator, and just get it out of the way, and then you got your belt diagram right there just in case you forget or whatever. Okay, and then go ahead and remove these 4 13mm bolts to hold the air conditioning unit on. Do not remove that one or you'll drain all your Freon, obviously. And then there's 2 brackets here that are held in by all 10mm bolts. There's going to be a bolt right there, and there's going to be one nut right there. And then there's one down over here, one way down there, let me see, one way down there, and then one more off to the side right here. Go ahead and remove all those, and remove your throttle cables, the kick down cable for the transmission, or actually no, that's a cruise control. Remove that, and then you'll be able to get all this out of the way and get to the AC unit, and then we'll go from there in the next one. Okay, so now what we've done is we have removed the AC and flopped it up out of the way over there. And the throttle cable brackets have all been just kind of shoved off to the side. Remove the brake booster vacuum hose. Remove this little vacuum line here from this T-connector. Where is she? From this T-connector right here. Okay. And then I removed the breather tube from the valve cover down there. That is sitting right there. And there's a plastic E-clip that holds this cruise control line on, and it's kind of a pain. So what I did is I put a pick tool in that right there and popped that part out, and then I put a pick tool on this side, and then it released the little ears that hold that on, so you don't have to change your adjustment because this thing screws, and I didn't want to have to adjust it to get the cruise control correct. So I found another way. Now just remove all these little modular plugs, and just tuck them off to the side, get them out of the way. And here are your heater core hoses. There's one right here, and there's one right down here. You're going to need to remove those, and I already removed them from the heater core. So relieve the fuel pressure. There's the Schrader valve right there. And then the spark plug wires, I just kind of tuck them out of the way, and then this one here, I'll tuck them out of the way too. Be sure you have disconnected your negative battery cable at this particular point in time, because now I think we're going to have to remove the alternator to get access to the rest of it, and it looks like we're going to have to remove this AC bracket to get to this intake bolt that is right there. And that is the EGR solenoid right there. And then it looks like it's just a bunch of these straight bolts to hold the lower intake manifold on. Remember to undo all the wires there. There's the map sensor right there. I'm not sure, I think that's the purge solenoid for the evap. I've never worked on one of these before, so I don't know exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to correct me, go ahead and do that in the comments, and I will add annotations into the video. But I'm just kind of doing what I see fit here to get this lower intake manifold gasket replaced. Alright, so it's another day, and I've just taken all the wire connectors off of everything to get the harness out. This big plug right here is kind of tricky. You got to pull this white keeper out, and then there's a tab there, and there's a tab on the back side. right there. You have to pry both of those and pull up at the same time. Okay? And then you just want to disconnect the PCV hose, just kind of wiggle that out of the way. And now I've got to get down to those fuel lines, so I'm going to make a crow's foot to get in there, because that's about the only way to do it. And then I should be able to get to all the bolts. And the EGR tube, that's a 22mm nut. It should break free pretty easy. It shouldn't be too rusty. You know, it's an aluminum intake, so that should come up pretty easy. And then your upper radiator hose, of course, that goes up and over to here, okay? And then this bracket here that holds the AC and everything, I just got it loose. I haven't quite figured out how to get it off yet, but there are, I believe, 5 bolts. So there's going to be one right there, one right there, and this is a stud. This one right below the GM part number, that's a stud right there, and it's just a E8 socket with that end right there, and you can extract that stud pretty easily. And then there's one more bolt down there. If you just look straight down at the pump, right at the very, okay, let's see if I can do this here. So right at the very tip of the pulley there, there's going to be a bolt directly below it. Go ahead and get underneath there and remove that one that as well. All of the bolts that hold the AC bracket, power steering pump bracket on, are all 14mm, so that'll make it easier for you to get in there. For future reference, the other bolt that holds the power steering and AC bracket on is that one you can see right there very clearly. And then let's get rock and roll and start taking the intake bolts out. We've got to get the distributor out too, so that's got to come out. There's a 10mm holding bolt down there and a plug on it, so you got to take the plug off, take the wires off, cap, whatever, and then go ahead and make sure you mark it really well so you can put it back in the same position. So put a mark on the firewall where the rotor points to. So this one here is pointing right there, so I'm just going to put a Sharpie on here and just push it so that it points at the firewall, put a mark, and then if I get it back in the exact same spot, I'll know it'll fire right up. Sweet. We make tool to do job. Got a 5/8 inch open-ended combo wrench, and I need to make a crow's foot. I wouldn't touch it if I were you. So there you have it. We're making custom tools now. Let's get out the welder, and let's make a crow's foot. Get over there. That should do it. GM fuel line tool right there, custom made. Alright, that was my homemade crow's foot. See if I can get it cracked loose. Yep, there we go. Now I can get a stubby wrench or something in there and keep it going on there. Let's see, is that a 5/8 inch? Okay, let's see here. Yeah, see this 5/8, yeah, see the other one's just a piece of junk. But now that it's broken loose, I can get in there and actually get a swing on it. And get these fuel lines out of the way. Alright, intake is off finally. You can see where the jackets are blown here, so this gasket is completely shot. This one here is getting ready to go, and they're all getting ready to go. So we'll get this thing going on here and get it fixed. And the intake is over here. I just left all the throttle body and everything on it. Didn't want to bother taking it off. I'll take it off and put on new gaskets and everything, and new O-rings and all that, but I didn't feel like doing it while it was in the truck. I'll do it while it's sitting down here. Much easier. So you do not have to remove that hose right there, either there or there, and that clamp broke, so I couldn't do it there. But you don't have to remove the EGR, you don't have to remove the upper pipe or any of that stuff to get it off. You just got to remove all these little, the evap right there. There's a little white clip. You push that clip down and then pull it off. And then this injector, like I said, there's 2 clips on each side. And then the brake booster line, PCV hose, and then there's another hose that goes below that. And then there's a bolt right there that holds the EGR pipe in place. And then you have your 2 5/8 inch fuel lines. You got to undo those, and then you got to take the distributor out. It looks like it was one 10mm bolt for me on this one. And there's the 22mm EGR pipe right there. You got to take that off. And then you have your heater core flow line to the heater core there. and then you have a few little wire looms and stuff you got to unclip, and then you got your map sensor, and you got your throttle position sensor, idle air control valve, all the stuff like that. Just need to remove all that stuff, and then it'll come on up and out. And the easiest way to not have to undo the whole entire harness is just pull it up and kind of hold it up out of the way. If somebody's there to help you, it makes it a little bit easier. Just hold the harness, up out of the way, and the intake should come up and out without a problem. So let's get this thing going. Alright, so I am taking a look here. You can see where the gasket was blown out, where it's all clean. Right there. That's where the gasket had blown, and it was just shooting it straight out here. And then it was coming out the bolt hole there, and a bolt hole there. And so this one here was getting ready to blow as well. They were all getting ready to blow. You can see all the build up. Here's where the distributor pokes through. And it's pretty decent. The motor's clean. My uncle always changes his oil. Always, always. So, got a new valve cover gasket in. Grommets. Felpro gasket. I like Felpro gaskets. The blue ones, they work pretty well. But got that all taken care of. That'll all be nice and good. I got the gaskets all scraped. I need to change this valve cover gasket, which is going to be a bear, because I'm not sure what all is connected to it still. It looks like, so this side here, to do this one, you remove these 3 bolts. I'm not exactly sure what size they are. I just used a 13 millimeter, and it was a little loose on them, but they're not very tight, so it doesn't really matter. And then you just have to pick up this wiring harness and slip it out, slip it over the top of this tube here, because I couldn't get this tube off. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't want to break it, so I just said forget it, and I just picked the harness up and over and just slid it up and out this way and changed that valve cover gasket. Then now I'm going to change this one, and this EGR pipe is flexible enough so that I think it'll bend out of the way without breaking it. If it breaks, we'll cross that road if we do get there. I hope we don't. Alright, so we got the new Felpro valve cover gasket installed, and we did the new grommets. We cleaned up the valve cover a little bit. Okay, so, the Vortec V6 right there, so you orientate it. So it was like this, and you're just going to fish it back in there. Nice and easy so you don't pop the gasket out. And there you have it. Back in place. Now you just take your bolts. Bolts here, I need to clean those up, but then the bolts just go back down through, and then you find the screw holes down there, and then just get them on in. So that's all there is to doing the valve cover gaskets on this beastie. It's not that hard at all. It's just like a classic Chevy, but the bolts are actually in the top, which makes it easier to get to. So that's valve cover gaskets. We're starting the reassembly and cleaning up of the upper intake. I went ahead and took it off. It's really easy. It's just a couple of 10 millimeter bolts, and take off the evap sensor there, and then that comes out. And make sure you take your fuel rail off of your spider injector and all that stuff. And then you want to clean up, if there's a bunch of crud coming out of these EGR pipes and junk like that, clean it up a little bit, and then wipe all the oil off the, the gasket contact area there. To pick out the old gaskets, you just use a pick tool or something or other and just pry it on out, and it'll come on out no problem. I went ahead and engine foamed this upper intake, cleaned up a little bit. The throttle body base mount gasket, that just picks out as well. I believe this would be the PCV, that just twists off, and then you got your brake booster, that just twists off, and then the map sensor, just gently rock that up and out, and then you're rocking and rolling to go ahead and just clean it up, reinstall everything. This gasket just pushes right into place, no big deal, and you get that going on there. Everything is nice and preformed. It just fits right into place. No sweat. Yeah. Awesome. There, that's all good and go back together. Now I'm going to clean up this throttle body and idle air control valve a little bit. It's quite dirty, as you can see. Clean that up. And then I'm not going to worry too much about cleaning this up because it does look okay. I might just, shoot a little cleaner in there after I get it running. And And then underneath the hood, we're looking pretty good. Make sure you get yourself some nice beefy gaskets. I like these Felpros. Felpro 98002 and then 98. Oh no, they're both exactly the same. Okay. So get yourself some good gaskets. And they're exactly the same part number because they are exactly the same gasket. If you flop them up, if you correctly flop them up next to each other, they're identical. So they're the same gasket. And when you're not working inside the engine here and you got the valley plate exposed, cover that with a rag or something to keep dust and debris out while you're doing other things, because you don't want anything junky getting in there. Make sure you gasket scrape all around. Gasket scrape the the front end seal or whatever. You just use RTV for that because there's no gasket. Just make sure, and then if you are when you're scraping, put a paper towel in the cylinder and coolant jackets to keep debris out of there, and it'll make your life a whole lot easier and be easier on your engine when you start it for the first time. So we're getting going, and things are going pretty smooth so far. So I just got to clean up the throttle body and then start reassembling the intake manifolds together, because it's easier to do it when it's outside the truck than inside the truck. And then just go ahead and flop it back in there, do your RTV end seals and everything, and then just properly torque it down in the proper sequence with the new gaskets in there. And then it's just a matter of hooking everything back up, and I'll go through quick steps of that of what I did. Okay, the intake is all cleaned up and ready to go back in. The discoloration I'm not concerned about. I razor bladed it very carefully and got it nice and flat. So this here is going to be a bead of silicone, and then your gaskets are going to be here on this side, so I'll show you underneath the hood what that's going to look like. So you have your gaskets, and these Felpros, like I said, they fit perfect and they look great. Look like they'll really seal in there really good. So all you do is there's 2 pegs, and you just find just slap it up on there, and then that peg will go in the hole that's right there. And this one here, same thing, and they stay in place really nice. And that's all there is to putting the intake gaskets in. Now you're going to get the kit. Comes with this black RTV silicone. It's just the black FIPG form in place gasket, and you're just going to put a nice bead from about here, come all the way across, nice bead there to right there, and same thing in the back in there, okay? And that's your end seal gaskets for the oil and spray everywhere out of there. And you do want to come up onto this gasket. Like I said, you want to come up onto the gasket to about there with the silicone, where those 3 forks are. You want to come up to about there, and then get a nice blob right in here, because otherwise it's not going to seal where the head gasket stops, and the block is right there. So get that going on, and you can see the valley plate here. Oil has been very well changed in this vehicle, like I said. You can see the camshaft down in there. So everything's looking good. Got the valve cover gaskets in, and we're ready to rock and roll and get this intake back in. I just got to go look up the torque sequence and how many inch-pounds of torque to do each sequence in. There's 3 sequences for this, so I'll get that written down on a piece of paper and get back and get this intake in here. Alright, I got smart and looked it up, and hopefully you can see this here. There's bolt 1, then you come down here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. And this is for the 5.7 liter Vortec engine, but it's the same thing. So looks like 71 inch-pounds, 106 inch-pounds, and then 11 foot-pounds. So my torque wrench goes down to 10 foot-pounds, so I should be able to get the final torque. What I'm going to do is you just put your hand over the ratchet like this, and then you can't over-torque when you're going like that. So you just get them snug the first way around, and then go a little bit tighter the second way around, and then get out your torque wrench and go ahead and finish it off. So getting ready to get this bad boy back together. Just got to lay the bead of silicone, slap that in there, and then throw the bolts in and start torquing. Oh, also, don't forget to clean your bolts, because if you had lower intake manifold gasket failure, this is probably what the bolts are going to look like. Nasty and crusty. So make sure you at least clean them up. If not with a tapping or a dye, at least clean the gook off of them. You know, 'cause that's pretty gross. So clean that up really good. Okay, I finally made a plexiglass thing so my cell phone can sit so you can see this. So I'm going to go ahead and install the intake here. I got my beads of silicone on the front and back seals. Get in place. How do I wire this? There we go. Alright, and you just want to look down through and see the bolt holes line up. And then you should drop right into place, for the most part at least. You got to guide the fuel lines in a little bit. There's a click of the fuel lines. And then push it back. Oh, come on, do not do this to me. You got to get pushed back. What the heck is going on here? Oh, it's getting held up on the wiring harness in the back there. So once you're in place, drop her down, and you should see the silicone squish out nicely in the front and back. Let me show you. Yeah, so you should see silicone squeezing out there. If you don't, you didn't put enough on. Take it off, put more on. Always best to have too much than not enough. That looks good. Now let's see if we can see anything on the back. I doubt it. Oh yeah, I can see some squeezing out. You probably couldn't see it, but I can, so that's good enough for me. Now, install your bolts and do your sequence. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So we're getting there. Alright, so now you just take your 22mm wrench, get that EGR pipe threaded back in a little bit, and then just crank her on down, you know, no big deal. Make sure you put your mount on, which is going to be over here. It mounts the spark plug wire loom harness to the intake. Go ahead and put that on, and then that'll throw the pipe right back in place where you need it. And then just get her snuggish enough, and then there you go. And then you want to start putting your wires back on. You know, they're all modular, so you really can't mess them up. You know, I got this temperature sensor wire here. It goes down to the temperature sensor by the exhaust manifold down there, so I'll fish that down there. And then you're going to have map sensor plug, evap sensor plug, and then don't forget to put on your evap hose with those little, here's those white clips. I'll demonstrate that there for you. Just push down and pull off. You don't pull them out or anything, you just push down. Really easy. So clip and clip. Good. Alright. Now, see, if I was smart, I would have changed the fuel injector or the fuel rail O-rings before I put the intake on, but I'm not smart enough to do that. So now I gotta pull those lines out and change those, but